Welcome to PoMoArts. Tonight we are streaming live for a virtual opening and a Meet the Artist event. I'm Janice Cotter, Gallery Manager. At PoMoArts, we've started an internal organization-wide mandatory process of equity, diversity, and inclusion training, along with organizational decolonization practices training to help us as we work towards developing a meaningful territorial acknowledgement. We recognize that this is just the first step and that we have a long way to go, including the building of respectful relationships with local Coast Salish nations in our community. As we start this evening, I'd like to thank PoMoArts Board of Directors, as well as our longtime supporters, the City of Port Moody, the Province of British Columbia for their support through the Community Gaming Program, the Government of Canada for their support through the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Once again, we have 3 new exhibitions opening in the gallery and starting today. And it was a beautiful day. We had a lot of visitors. But we're continuing to do our openings and our artist talks as virtual events. So I hope that after this evening, you'll be able to come and visit us in the gallery. This evening, you're going to find out a bit about the exhibitions by Robert Ashcroft and Edward Fu Chen Wan, and then meet the artists exhibiting in Healing Gardens. So, our first artist that we'll talk to is Edward Fu Chen Wan, and he'll tell us a bit preview of his exhibition For the Land and Its Memories.
Hi, everybody. My name is Edward Fu Chen Wan. I'm a visual artist based out of Vancouver, BC, which is the unceded traditional lands of the Musqueam, Tittawath, and the Squamish people. So for my exhibition, it features my last 1.5 year research on working with Indigenous plant and Indigenous knowledge keepers of BC. And I was able to create the pieces through printmaking and paper making. So hopefully you can come to my artist talk and get to know about my process and my journey in the last 1.5 years. My artist talk is on March 3rd, Thursday, 7:15 p.m. Pacific time. You can find the link on the PoMoArts Facebook and website. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that was very brief. So we will find out a lot more about Edward's show when he has his artist talk. Next up, we have Robert Ashcroft to tell us about his show, Sides.
Hi, as Janice said, Robert Ashcroft. I've got a 10 painting show in the Suncor Gallery on what I call sides, which is basically, I like urban environments. I'm basically an urban artist. I like painting old buildings. I like decaying structures. I like peeling paint. And I like to record that because a lot of people don't notice those things. And I think they are beautiful in themselves. I do have my talk on March the 10th at 7:15 Pacific time. And I hope that some people tune in and take a look at my virtual tour. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. So at this point, we've just had a brief meeting with Ed and Robert, and we will see them again on March 3rd and March 10th. I hope you'll be able to join us then. So we'll say goodbye to Ed and Robert for the evening, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Now we have our Healing Gardens artists with us, and I'm so pleased to have them all here. We are going to scroll through their digital gallery, and you'll get to meet each of them as they talk about their artwork and their art practice. First, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on it. The Healing Gardens group is a community of supportive artists and friends. They are 9 artists who came together during the pandemic to share their personal healing journey, experience, and inspiration. And the artist who came up with the original concept is Julia Nigra, a Coquitlam potter. Julia, would you like to tell us a bit more about the idea for Healing Gardens, what Healing Gardens meant to you?
Sure. Thank you, Janice, and thanks for this opportunity. Healing Gardens, I see as a therapeutic outlet. Many people have plants inside their homes. I only know of one person in my lifetime that does not have a plant in their home. And I kind of question, why is it that we have to bring plants inside our home? And, you know, I pondered about this and I researched it, and I see that there have been a lot of studies done that show the therapeutic uses of gardens, parks, nature, and I wanted to sort of celebrate that because we're in the pandemic. There's a lot of world events that are really quite disturbing, and you know, just offer a way of respite from all of that. And pottery to me is therapeutic in itself. It's 2 things I really enjoy, nature and pottery. And I wanted to reach out to my friends for support because that's we draw strength from is from our family and friends. Friends are the people we choose as family members, sort of. And so it's always nice to work with friends and we can support each other through this pandemic and have that respite. So that was the whole concept. I really needed something to just enjoy, and this was it, Healing Gardens. And so we hope that our viewers will find the same sort of respite in seeing our pieces and inspirations.
Thank you, Julia. Now we will move on and meet all of the Healing Gardens artists. Ooh. So we'll scroll through the digital gallery. If you go on, it's on our website. Each of you can look at it individually. Pardon me, visitors can look at it. This is a panorama of the exhibition, a part of the exhibition installed. And some information, some of the things that Julia was speaking about. And we have all of the participating artists listed. And the first artist up is Olive Chan. So Olive, would you like to come and say a few words about your artwork and your art practice?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm really excited to be part of this show and very honored to be included. As Janice said, my name is Olive. My name is Olive Chan. I'm a Chinese Canadian landscape artist and I work primarily in acrylics. I live in Port Coquitlam and I've been painting for 25 years, but only the last 2 years have been in a professional context. For me, life is all about love, and painting and art is a way that I experience and also engage in and also share love. And I think when I think of healing gardens, I think the ultimate healing garden is just being in nature. And for me, I'm very drawn to skies and water and light and kind of the interplay of those. And so a lot of my paintings are explorations of sky and water and light. And what I hope to do through my art is to just give people a moment of calm and of peace through in their days. And that's, yeah, I feel like if I can offer that to my viewers, then I've done my job. My art style, I if I have to be technical about it, it would be something between contemporary realism and painterly realism. I basically try to create what I see in photographs. I usually work with photographs, and then I work in layers, and I do a lot of dry brushing for light, fluffy clouds. And as an artist, there's a lot that I'm still exploring. I'm exploring different sizes from really large to really small, and different medium, and yeah, trying different things. And for this exhibition, I have 15 pieces, and I just hope that each of these pieces can give you, the viewers, a space where you can be reminded of how nature plays a role in your healing, and just give you, a, like Julia said, a respite from the pressures and the worries of life. And I just want to say thank you to Janice, who put this together, and to Julia, who kind of gathered us all together. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you, Olive. Our next artist up is Johanna Giesbrecht. And Johanna, would you like to unmute and come and say a few words about your work?
Hi. Yeah, I've been doing pottery on and off since I was a kid, in winter days at school. And I've always enjoyed creating things with my hands, creating new things out of found things. And I've always enjoyed the gardening process, whether that's in a grandparent's vegetable garden, my grandma teaching me how to grow potatoes, or my grandpa teaching me how to grow sweet peas, those kind of things. Or just as Olive had mentioned, just being in nature. It's a natural existing garden, and those spaces have always given me a lot of healing, a lot of peace, a lot of inspiration. So in 2013, I took up pottery again after a long absence. And it was kind of for like a personal healing journey. And shortly after that, I was injured again in 2017. And part of my physical healing was through gardening, just taking time in the yard, weeding, doing things to kind of build up my stamina. And then I kind of enjoy bringing those two things together. Handmade pottery, art in general, has always just brought me so much fulfillment, so much joy, beauty, love, and being able to share my healing through a tangible piece that can bring someone else enjoyment is just it's very meaningful to me. So during the whole COVID pandemic, many chronic health conditions that I've been working through, it's both gardening, nature, forests, hiking, and pottery have always been there and always been a space of healing for me.
Johanna, you have always incorporated nature into your pottery. Did you want to speak to any of the techniques that you've used in preparing it?
Yeah, so I made these pieces specifically, the jugs with slab slab pottery, so like rolled out as opposed to on the wheel. And then I've collected botanical pieces from where I go for walks, from my neighborhood, from my garden and my backyard, places that have been just special to me. And I've used deer ferns in this jug that we're looking at right now. And they're in my backyard, but they are a plant that's indigenous to coastal BC. And the other jugs I've had. That one right there, that is, I believe that's a cedar. I'm not sure which kind, but the rest of them are different varying cedars that are found all along coastal BC.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next artist up is Nella Hawass. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Nella.
Yes, it's close enough. Thank you.
So we have your pieces. You have 3 pieces in, but they are large. Would you like to speak to your process, your artwork, and your healing journey?
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I do tend to rant, so feel free to cut me off. I was I was born in the former Yugoslavia, and my parents, my family, and I were political refugees from a very, very difficult regime. I'm from a family of artists, filmmakers, painters, sketch artists, sculptors, and so on. So art is what we've all done, what we do. I am a dancer by training. I own a dance school, a professional dance company, and my garden is my dancers. In my school, I grow them from little seedlings into these beautiful creatures. And we create together. We don't just learn dance, we create art and movement. There's been a lot of times where my dancers were painted into my canvases and things like that. So it's all about art. One of the most difficult things that I've been through these last couple of years was the negative connotation that dance took on through the pandemic. Dance has always been healing and creative and gentle and fulfilling for the soul. We work in our school with dancers with diverse abilities, and dance is what holds us together, what gives us our voice, and so on. So to have been taken down by this horrific situation we were all in, and being targeted as a source of negativity, a source of transmission, and things like that. It's been a very difficult journey. So there's been a lot of anger, as you can see from the piece that's up right now. I titled this Atlas Ascending. It honestly doesn't have much to do with the mythological character, other than that Atlas had many, many, many daughters. And I see myself as Atlas here, holding the weight of the world on my shoulders while trying to keep my daughters dancing and living and moving and so on. So the wings are just that. It's never again, never down on their knees again. We're just going to keep flying and moving and creating. So yeah, that's my healing garden. That's the eagle coming up next. Is a completely different story, and actually started right at the onset of the pandemic. But as things were happening and kind of falling apart, I was walking through and I found an injured eagle. And he just stood there with his wing broken. And so it was incredible to be 5 feet from this creature. So I luckily had my phone. I called the bird owl sanctuary for birds, and eventually they came to try and help the eagle. I spent 45 minutes with that eagle, and just him and I, and the look in the creature's eyes, the dignity, the fight for survival. It was almost like a hint of what was about to come. Sorry. So he's there to fly forever. Yeah. The healing journey is still a process, still healing. So the final piece is emerging through all that. We're not quite there, but we're well on our way. So thank you for the opportunity and your patience. Thank you.
Now, Nella, when you were here dropping off your artwork, I was talking to one of the other artists that knows you. And she said that you often, when you create large paintings, you have used them, incorporated them into your dance performances.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've had large loose canvases where dancers were painted into the canvas. So the opening of a show would look like a gallery exhibit, and the dancers would remove themselves out. We've used that on film as well. We work with film a lot. So the act of painting for me is very physical, and it really came to being a lot more through the pandemic, when as dancers we were completely restricted. We were not allowed to move anymore. So to be able to dance on a canvas with a paintbrush, so they're very tactile, they're very physical, and a lot of them just stem from just that pure movement, wanting to escape the constrictive life that we were thrown in for the last 2 years.
Thank you very much for sharing that. We
Thank
are on to our next artist, Gloria Yoon. And Gloria, I apologize. I probably mispronounced your Korean name.
Yeah, no, it's chill. Hi.
Hi.
My name's Gloria Gianhan. I have 3 pots in the show that are wheel thrown, fired in a high fire reduction atmosphere. And the pots are carved and inlaid with a traditional scrolling peony pattern. I graduated from Emily Carr University of Art and Design for my BFA, and from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago with my Master's of Fine Arts. And currently I'm the pottery studio manager and instructor at Places Arts. I'm currently undergoing a rigorous mentorship and apprenticeship with Master Clay Jung-Hong Kim and Sylvia Kim to learn traditional Korean ceramics. And I've been with them for the last 6 years, but the increased intensity has been made possible by the BC Arts Council Early Career Development Grant. I feel extremely privileged to be the recipient of this grant and this traditional knowledge transfer. And I really hope to pass this knowledge on to a network of Korean diasporic artists.
So Gloria, with the techniques you're using in these pots, these are the things that you have been working with Master Kim on?
Yeah, kind of. So this is what I've been learning with him for the last 6 years. I learned this technique maybe a couple years ago, but I didn't get it to a point of quality until recently. The stuff that I'm working with Master Kim on is a little bit more intense than what I am showing in the exhibition, but yeah, I just want to share about my practice in general.
Okay, no, this is great. I know that when we had Master Kim and Clay for You in the gallery a few years ago, when you had work in that show too, I see a huge difference in the approach that you're taking just in those few years.
Yeah. So the work that is in this exhibition doesn't have any celadon glaze on it. They are all treated with puncheong style glaze. And puncheong is I don't know if it's a genre or a movement, but it's a section of Korean ceramics that sort of describes the application of slip. There are styles of puncheong that are freer and more organic, but still, treated with the same high regard and intensity. And there's puncheong that's sort of what I showed in the exhibition, which is a little tighter. Yeah, I mean, there's been a few years since that show, Janice. I would like to think there's been some improvement.
Oh, no, actually the last one wasn't it 2018?
Yeah,
2019?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not that far.
Yeah, I like to level up every time. So
Yeah, no, I know. Your work is always amazing. So thank you. Our next artist is Jin Jiang. Jin, do you want to speak? Come. Sue?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. So I have your work here, and I just wondered if you wanted to tell us a bit about your photography and how you started, came about to do it, how it works with the healing process and the pandemic.
Yeah. I'll talk a little about it. Hi, everyone. My name is Sue. I wrote a little bit about it because I knew that I'll be nervous talking. So, so here you go. So, hello, my name is Sue. My bird photographs are being presented under my full Korean name, Jin Jiang in Healing Gardens. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to join the amazing group of artists here. I did not take the photos specifically for this exhibition. What happened is that I started taking bird photos during the pandemic time, and then I selected the images to match the theme of the Healing Gardens exhibitions. I love taking bird photos because it gives me a sense of freedom. Also it's because I can completely focus on the present moment when I click the shutter, because birds would not pose for you and wait for you. So it should be at that moment. So you should live that moment with the bird. Generally speaking, living everyday life, we tend to look back often and always strive to live for the future days, which is absolutely necessary to survive, but it's tough on the heart sometimes. So taking bird photos allowed me to be able to live in the present moment. I feel lucky by doing so. I learned to live slower, and it is okay to live slower during the last couple of years. And when I click the shutter, I focus on the emotion and the interaction with the entire environment where here we mean the bird and I share. So I'll be very happy if there be at least one person who can see through what I try to capture in the images. Just to add a little more details about the images, I took those photos around here in the Tri-City area. Basically, it's from Coquitlam River, the Bobble Slough, Lafarge Lake, and then the sparrow photo is just from my neighborhood's backyard. Thank you.
Where now, Sue, where was the robin taken?
The robin is from Lafarge Lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a question about this one.
Oh, okay.
That must have been just having all of the birds together and then capturing the one in mid-flight. Are you using special equipment to do that, or can you elaborate?
It was just the right moment. I was just walking on the Bobble Slough, and then there were these waxwing. That's the name of the birds were flying around. And then I snapped a lot of shots there and then came home. And then I knew I got something interesting, but when I saw this one, I was so happy to see. But the image was not as clear as I expected. So I went back to the spots on and on to capture similar images, but I couldn't. So I realized that when it happens, it should be that moment. And I didn't care about the blurry wings. I actually like it. So I was lucky. The birds and I met at the right timing. You know, that's what I can say.
It's a beautiful photograph. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next artist is Julia Nigra. Julia, would you like to unmute and tell us a bit about your work and the healing gardens?
Okay. Well, my work, all of it consists of ferns. And the reason why I chose fern as a theme for my work is because one day I found myself walking in the trails of Coquitlam, and I came across a huge field of ferns, and they were all so tightly packed. And it almost seemed as though they were supporting each other, which supported the landscape. And it resonated with me. So I did a little bit of research on ferns, and they're over 300 million years old. So many different species of ferns all over the world. It was something that, people have seen in the forest and manicured gardens, and it's quite common to see ferns, but I don't know if everyone knows that ferns have been around since before dinosaur age. So it speaks to their longevity, their resilience, and their strength. And it gave me hope because if ferns can last that long and go through so many changes in environment and landscapes and still survive, so can we as the human species through these pandemics. And so that's the reason why I chose ferns. There's so many different varieties, and I've chosen a few. The one that you see on the fountain there is called a sword fern. Just the word sword, it resonates with power. And so I really had to have that in the fountain that you see. The stacked rocks represents a balancing act, work-life balance, balancing stress with non-stressful activities. We're always working towards that. And by we, I mean myself, but there are other people out there I know that have the same sort of challenges. So that's the gist of my work. And the next slide, you'll see 3-footed pots. I tried to put feet or pedestals on all these ferns because it's all an admiration for the strength and resiliency of the fern. So you see there another sword fern, maidenhair fern, and funny looking asparagus fern. And how I got those images on to my pots is quite a process. It's not just slapping on an image, it's not a decal. I added coloring into the clay. I added certain elements to create speckles, and it's sort of like a layering technique where you would add colorants to the clay, you would add underglazes, and then overglazes that also have pigment in them to create sort of almost a 3D effect, painterly effect. That's what I was hoping for. You can be the judge.
I'll just comment here for a second. When people see the images, the smaller images where there's 3 or several in a grouping, they can be clicked on to enlarge them so you can get a closer view of the piece in question. So we'll go on to your next pieces, Julia.
And again, I tried to capture, there's an image of a fern on the larger pot, and I tried to play with color and these pieces to represent the color of a fern at a certain stage during its life. And the white pot, like I said, it does have a fern on it. It's just facing the other way, so you might not be able to see it. You have to come in person to see that one. And these are wall sconces to allow people to plant their garden at home. And they do have images of ferns. They're, again, painterly, layered effects. And one day I hope to be able to teach the way I make these effects. And then the hanging pot you see there, I'm not sure if you can tell, but at the bottom you'll see some fiddleheads, and fiddleheads turn into leaves eventually. And you'll see the fiddleheads in the spring, and they're really quite nutritious and they're edible. So if you ever get a chance to try eating a fiddlehead, let me know, because I haven't tried one yet. But I heard they are quite nutritious. So, and then these are candle holders, and at the gallery they are filled with moss and plants and candles. And again, they're pedestal pots. And this was a special piece. It's very earthy. I made this during my residency there at the PoMoArts Center, and I finally glazed it. You can't tell, but it does sparkle when it's hit by light at a certain angle. And it just was brought in because of its earthy qualities.
Thank you, Julia. We will move on to our next artist, Talia Carmel Bafarde. Talia, I know I made a mistake on that. Bafadari?
Bafadari, thank you.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you again for having this show. I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas, obviously in the States, and have made my way kind of across the Midwest. And I studied at several different universities, but ended up getting my BFA at University of Whitewater, Wisconsin. And then very shortly after that, I married a Canadian and have spent a good portion of the rest of my adult life starting a family and raising a family. So these three pots that are shown here was actually part of a little bit of my student work, and that we were able to incorporate it into the show here because the theme, it has been about taking trauma and finding different ways of being able to respond to that trauma. So this one is called Response, Response, Response. So it takes three different ways of, you see the trauma that happened to the pot. The first one that's shown on the left of the screen is kind of allowing that trauma to fester, to be this kind of open wound. There's not much done to it. It simply exists and is there. And then for this next, the one in the middle, the trauma is kind of started to kind of try and be covered up, or to try and shelter over that. And that but with that, there's still kind of this scarring, there's still this this evidence that it's there. But then for the third one on the right side of the screen, it's taking this trauma and figuring out a way that we can grow from that. And so, and also with my imagery as well, I was thinking about roots in particular, and how they're able to kind of grow and find a way and grow through things and out of things. So for that particular theme, thinking about how this is a way that we can incorporate these ideas throughout our lives, kind of regardless of what's happening around us. And so then this was even something that like throughout the pandemic, even thinking about what are ways that we can continue to grow through this process, even though there's also this collective trauma that's happening throughout the world with what's been happening. And then for the next piece that I have as well, and sorry, yeah, there's multiple images of, yeah, that's okay, go ahead. And then for this particular piece, I made this specifically for the show and a little bit of a response to the pandemic as well. I mentioned before I had spent a good portion of my adult life right now of starting and raising a family. And one of the things that's happened in the pandemic has been that mothers in particular have taken a good brunt of supporting kind of everyone. There's especially with having to take on childcare, having to take on also trying to work or trying to kind of manage a lot. There's this idea of the workload, the mental load and things like that really greatly increased, even though there was already kind of a disparity before that. But even in the pandemic, this mental load has greatly increased. And so then there has also been, as a response to that, a very commodified idea of self-care, of this if you like, in order to try and combat this burnout that's happening, you can go and buy all these makeup products and do and try and paint your nails or go get a manicure or something like that. And so then it's this very kind of outward like this outside thinking about self-care. And that for this particular piece, I was thinking about re-examining what that self-care looks like, as really thinking about, even if we have our heart as a garden, what would we plant inside of that garden? So thinking about it as a nurturing of ourselves, thinking about it as, instead of this kind of very external thought, how can we nurture our hearts and nurture this space inside of us in order to be able to give back and start to really think about the root of what some of this burnout that happens, for in particular, as I also experience as a mother. And so also for this piece, even structurally, just to give some technique behind it, it's a coil built piece with a few slabs in it. The tray that you see on the side actually fits inside of the bottom of the piece because it's a planter. You can't really see inside of it just from the black glaze on the inside, but there's a false bottom that it actually stops kind of about the midline of the waist, so that you can have plants inside of it, and there's 3 holes to be able to have drainage. And so really thinking about in my practice as well, I really like applying these wider concepts to functional work, and also being able to have functional aspects into my sculptural work as well. So this particular piece is a functioning planter as well, so that then you actually have that physical act of nurturing and thinking about what do we nurture in our hearts as we also physically nurture the plant that this holds.
Thank you, Talia. That was wonderful. We will move on to our next artist, Lynn Verrelay. Lynn?
Hi there. Thanks to everybody who's attending this virtual opening of Healing Gardens tonight. I'm excited to be sharing in this exhibit with these 8 wonderfully gifted artists in the Healing Gardens. My work in healing gardens reflects a little bit of what Talia had said as well about working in your home garden, but realizing that our own gardens need tending and nurturing, just like our outside gardens in our yards need as well in order to thrive. So in my home gardens and spending time outdoors, I've been inspired to take my time while I'm gardening or take my time while I'm going for walks. There are a lot of areas around where I live, the beach, the ocean, forest. I live just up the hill from Burns Bog, and actually one of the ravines that runs down into Burns Bog is 4 houses down at the end of my street. So I'm very, very close to the bog. There are coyotes that run down our street, and there are deer that come out and feed on the grass in the wintertime just down the hill from me. So I have a lot of nature around me. But spending more time in my gardens and the patience that it needs to have something to grow made me sort of calmer and slow down my pace. And this calm pace inspired me to slow down in my creative process as well. That in turn helped me to set a centered temperament, and it was better to deal with COVID once that happened. The first 6 weeks when everything shut down, I thought I could have a lot of time to do art. I didn't have to do anything else. I wasn't working, and I did nothing. So it was sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop and what else was going to happen. But when I finally got out of it, it was the spending the time in the gardens and just getting out there, you know, in the sunshine as well. That helps make you feel better as well. So some of the things that I made, this one in particular, this piece, Ocean Storm, this is from just going out for walks, even when it's a stormy, rainy day, and seeing what color the ocean is and the sky too. And sometimes the clouds are kind of purplish and dark and gray. There's beauty in all of it, even if it's not a beautiful sunny day down at the beach. There's beauty in the storm as well. So that's what this was inspired by. This one here is beach lights. So this is on an opposite day, not a stormy day, but a sunnier day. So there's reflection of the water there too, but you know, some of the foliage that's near the beach and the color of the sand as well, and the dirt around the beach. So that one was on a brighter, sunnier day, and another of many walks down to the beach, which is, I do Centennial Beach in Tawasin, but also Crescent Beach in Surrey are the places that I like to go for a walk. And oh, my little moai, my little Easter Island guy, I name him Aku, and I like to put flowers in him just because it looks kind of quirky with flowers coming out of his head. But it was 10 weeks of a bas-relief class that I took, a hand building ceramics class that I took about a year ago. And it was such a joy to be able to get out, be with people, and create and learn. And sometimes it was very quiet in the class of 10 people, but it was still meditative working with the clay. And I really missed it when it was over. But this was one of the pieces that came out of there, and he just makes me happy. So it was a reflection of the joy that I felt in being able to finally take a course, a class with people again.
I brought some flowering shrubs from my garden to put in his head.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, that I told you I had brought it in the house and forced some of the branches.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much. And this last piece, this is an actual scarf, and it has fringes. It's 6 feet long and 22 inches wide, and it's a cotton piece. Actually, I work with a lot of silk, but occasionally I'll dye on cotton and linen just to have something heavier and more substantial. And this one is called Burns Bog Majesty. And this one was inspired by a walk through Burns Bog, the different color flowers that are there, the streams that are there, the trees. And it was just something that I had put together to try to keep the memory of that burst of color as I walked down through the bog. It's a very magical place.
The one thing you didn't mention, Lynn, is that all of your fabric pieces are suspended with doweling and hung up.
Yes, I thought that would be something different, and maybe, you know, I was thinking of also making space for other people's works as well, but just to have something different as well. I don't believe I've ever had anything suspended before. I had a friend who did some abstract painting on paper, and she had suspended it sort of, both ends were hanging from the ceiling, so it kind of dipped down, and you could still see from underneath. But I did want to have my pieces suspended, at least the silks, for having the light shine through and feeling the warmth or the coolness. The ocean storm would be coolness, but the beach lights piece, the golden colors, just to have the warmth of the light coming through or the coolness of the light coming through, I thought would be a different way to display them.
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate you going into detail about that. Oh, and we have the last one.
Yeah, and this is a botanical piece. So actual, so it's on silk. It's a framed piece on silk, 16 by 16. And it has bits and pieces of flowers and leaves from in my house, a floral bouquet that I had been given to as for my birthday, and some pieces, some leaves from outside as well. So I used eucalyptus, there's carnations, there's roses on there. There's also peony leaves. Peony leaves give a nice brown color. And so it is a mirror. So I did place the flowers on the right half, and I flipped the left half over. And then I bound it, I rolled it up and I bound it with string and I steamed it. And that's how the color gets in there. I also took, a little tiny hammer that I have, and I pounded some of the flowers to get more of the color out of it before I steamed it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And our last artist this evening is Marika St. Rose Yeo?
Yo, yes.
Oh, okay. Hi, Marika. Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and the series?
Sure, thank you so much. I just want to start by saying a quick thank you to you, Janice, and the team at the gallery for all the work that went into the show, as well as all the other wonderful artists that are part of this show. So yes, for going through these pieces, I was thinking I won't go one by one, but I'll speak more generally about some of the concepts that inspired the pieces that you see in the photos and that are in the show. So in connection to the theme of healing gardens, I've been thinking about healing quite a bit recently in relation to my practice and in relation to working with clay and the shape of the vase. So it's led me to making these vessels that you see an example on the screen here, and choosing this particular shape because it has allowed me to contemplate the ways in which the process of healing is also connected to processing pain and vulnerability, whether it be in our lives individually or collectively, or in the lives of those who came before us. So I attempt in part to mirror these ideas in my pieces through elements like breaks and fragments, which you see a bit more of the missing pieces, I guess, in some of the other vases as well, or misshapen parts that do not quite fit together or align. So when it comes to thinking about the concept of the garden, I was thinking mainly about engaging with the earth through the material of clay, and what might grow or become possible, or more possible at least, if we learn about caring for this interconnection that we have both with the earth and with each other. Thank you.
Okay, so we have the two series from Shifting Conversations. You've used different color palettes. Do they represent anything for the series? Do you want?
Sure. Well, for these pieces, I've been inspired to think about my own background. And one of the things I was looking at is St. Lucian fabric and dye that was used on the island throughout time. And so one of the colors that was used in a form of natural dye was a blue, like a deep blue cobalt. So that's why I chose to continue working with this shade, which I have a series of vessels beyond these three that I included in the show, where I work with that deep blue shade, and then also more earth-based colors like pinks and reds and browns and shades of yellow, I guess, or other shades and hues that were commonly used through fabric dyeing in St. Lucia. So that's why the other set of vases, I chose those shades to use there.
Do you have any the embossing on them? Some of them are symbols, there's flowers, there's various elements.
Yes, so originally when I started working with ceramics several years ago, I employed those patterns mainly because I went back several generations on both sides of my family, and I looked at what the color choices and also the patterns that were used in fabric at those times. So I went about 4 generations back on both of my parents' sides, and I looked at West African mud cloth and also the British arts and crafts movement in Western Europe, and I started to play with those patterns. But yeah, as my practice has evolved, I guess I am now more interested in kind of the entanglement that happens amongst all these different shapes and patterns and the way they interact and influence each other. And I wouldn't say that I necessarily am interested in employing them in kind of like 2 separate lines of pattern work, but actually more now like how they interact and play with each other and are intertwined and influenced by each other.
Thank you, Marika. Marika is the last artist, so we're done with the digital gallery, and at the very end of it there is a poem that Julia had wrote about the exhibition, inspired by the artist. So when you have time to scroll through it, you'll have to have a look at it. And supporting our local arts community, the artwork for the most part is for sale, not all of it, but a lot of it, and it helps to support our local artists. I will stop the share and will talk to the artists. I think I have a question or two in the Facebook comments, so we will have a look at those questions and see. So let's see here. I have Rose asking, how did you all come together for this show? Julia, I know you instigated it, made a couple of invitations, and what happened after that?
So I had done a healing gardening exhibition before, and I did it solo. This time around, I felt that I needed the support of friends. And so I called upon a few friends who they also called upon a few friends, and we formed this group together. Some of the people in this group I met for the first time dropping off the artwork. We had to communicate digitally on WhatsApp, email, Zoom. So I had 5 friends, they had more friends that they called, and we all got to know each other and worked together for the last year on this project. It's been really fun, and I hope I can work with all of you again. It's been very therapeutic and very supportive, and I'm so lucky to have met the people I have.
We have some comments in here. Melanie Ellarie, who was one of the artists from our last exhibition, she loved the concept of healing gardens. I know that would have appealed to her. She had, her exhibition was based on work coming through the pandemic as well. And Melanie's a Port Moody artist too. I don't know if some of you have met her or not. There aren't a lot more questions. There aren't any more questions. But did anyone have any other comments they wanted to make on the show or their artwork in the show? Okay. I think everybody feels like they've said enough for the evening. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It has been really nice to have everybody here at on Zoom, and we hope that soon we'll be able to have these things in person. I know the artists are planning to pop in the gallery and have some of their friends and family come and visit them. If you're here, you never know when you'll see some of the artists and be able to chat with them more about this. Thank you so much for being a part of this evening. And I hope that you'll be able to drop by for our artist talk and tour with Ed Fu Chen Wan next Thursday, March 3rd. Thank you again. Good night. Well, does everybody want to say good night? Good night.